You can sing for your supper, and you may get breakfast. And then on some days, you're looking for lunch, and you get breakfast. So welcome to the September 20th meeting of the Rotary Club of Louisville. I'm Barry Barker, president of our club and executive director of TARC. To lead us in our invocation is David Dunn. David is the owner of the Dunn Agency. Craig is someone you really want to get to know, and I'll explain that. He's the CFO, COO at Boss Construction. His parents started Berno's Pizza in the late 70s. Cool, huh? Hang out with him, free pizza. And Craig grew up washing dishes and making pizza. His MBA final project at Bellarmine was to work with a team of 4 students to write the business plan to secure construction financing for the Fraser History Museum, where we stand right now. 6 weeks after submitting the plan, Owsley Fraser hired Craig to manage the renovation of the Fraser Museum building and to manage the installation of the exhibits. A few years after opening, Craig was promoted to CFO, COO. Craig says, "I am probably one of a select few people ever to have an undergraduate degree in history with a master's in business to go on and write a business plan for a history museum and then be hired to run it." He's sponsored by Barry Barker and Steve Eggers. Dr. Carl Kim is a podiatric reconstructive surgeon in private practice at Norton Audubon. He is originally from Central Pennsylvania, won a Rotary Scholarship in high school, went to medical school at Temple University, moved to Louisville 2 years ago. He co-leads one mission per year that focuses on foot and ankle surgery, reconstruction of children born with clubfoot. He has done 6 missions to Kathmandu, Nepal, and 2 to San Lucas Tolman in Guatemala. Now that's Kathmandu, not Indiana. Dr. Kim's mission work was featured on the Doctor's TV program. He was sponsored by Kevin Lynch and Alice Bridges. Let's give him a hand. Now, Jason Pierce is the CEO of the Lincoln Heritage Council Boy Scouts of America, which serves over 26,000 youths in 64 counties in 4 states. How many Eagle Scouts do we have in the audience? You want to stand up so we can get a better view of you? No, they don't want to stand up. Jason is carrying on the tradition. Jason lives in Crestwood with his wife and their son Tyler. That is a sophomore he is a sophomore in high school. You can't read these things too closely. And their daughter Megan, who is studying, he hopes, criminal justice at EKU. Jason loves fishing, and he is absolutely ready to tell you about the one that got away. So, live music and traveling. He was sponsored by Carol Thomas and Kathy Knotts. Let's give him a hand. So welcome to the club, Craig, Carl, and Jason, and let's give them another hand.
Thank you, Barry. Well, it is a privilege to introduce Karen Williams this morning. Just sitting at the table, you can see she's a local celebrity And I like to say she's a bit of a double boomerang for us. So Karen's a native of Louisville, left and went down to Atlanta and worked for the Ritz-Carlton, where she started in her hospitality career. And I think, what's interesting about that is she worked at the highest of levels. If we've ever had a chance to stay at the Ritz, it is really one of the pinnacle in the hospitality industry. And so we were very fortunate to have her come back to Louisville, lead the efforts of the Convention and Visitors Bureau for many, many years, retired in 2012, and then became a second boomerang and was recruited back to become president and CEO of the Convention Center, which is now known as Louisville Tourism. And so I think she is a tremendous asset, a tremendous partner in what we do in promoting the city, rebranding the city, and really putting Louisville on a new map, on a new trajectory. And so under her leadership the past several years, much of the bourbonism boom, this combination of bourbon and the culinary scene have really collided together, and we've seen a tremendous growth in people coming to visit. And I know she will share many of really the specifics of what's going on. But I thought I'd share just a couple of those things that don't necessarily come up in her bio. And so she did help rebrand the entire city from a tourism perspective, which was no small feat. And the engagement that she brought with the community was incredible. And certainly its impact is meaningful. She's also been a pioneer in helping with the over 20 hotels that were recently completed or under construction, many of which that includes the major Omni development, but many of the reinvestments that are going on in the community, many of the other boutique hotels. All of this is aligning to really help feed a more vibrant, attractive Louisville. And I think one of the biggest pinnacle was cutting the ribbon in August of the Kentucky International Convention Center downtown. And so she'll expand a little bit about kind of where we are, I think, from a strategic position in the conference space, but continuing to add this new civic furniture and these new features to help promote this city is something I think is easy to take for granted. And I think for us to have Karen at the helm is very, very, we're very, very lucky. So mentioning the Glide trip last year in Nashville, I had a chance to go, and their convention center, their economic development team spoke. And I had a chance to have a private conversation with them afterwards, and they said, they looked at me and they said, do you guys know how lucky you are to have Karen back? And I said, yes, we do. And they said, she is one of the best in the industry. And so I think that is certainly a testament. I think what was even a bigger testament is that they shared with me that they're a little nervous. And I think much of that is because of Karen. So without further ado, Karen Williams, thanks for joining us today.
Good afternoon. What a tall introduction to lead up to. Thank you, Scott. It is such a pleasure to be with you here today. I try at least once a year since I've been back to come in front of you because you, ladies and gentlemen, are the true leaders of our community and get things done. So I really have to thank you because it's because of you and your belief in Louisville and Jefferson County that helps when we're trying to go after things that you're going to see today that makes us successful. So thank you. So a lot's been going on in the tourism space, so let's get to it. Okay, so you heard Scott say Louisville Tourism, and you're probably thinking, why would you change your name? Well, as Scott said, I was with the Bureau for a very long time, and that was before we had merged government, and I saw Carol Lee Allen here. And I had the county judge and we had the mayor. And so we would answer the phone at our office, good morning, this is the Louisville Jefferson County Convention and Visitors Bureau. Quite the mouthful, right? And many times people would say, what are you? You're the convention center? You're the chamber? So we waited until we did our rebranding 2 years ago, and this has always been on the forefront of our mind. I mean, our mission is to promote and market economic development for tourism in this community. Simply said, tourism. And tourism just isn't about conventions. It's not about you know, it's more than conventions, and that's what we were saying, conventions. But it's about leisure traveler. It's about you when you invite visitors in and you go to a museum and you go to a restaurant, you go to an attraction, all of you are creating economic dollars in our community. So, simply said, we are now Louisville Tourism. We are definitely Louisville Convention Bureau, and that's our legal name. And the other thing that we celebrated this year that you may or may not know, and there may be some people in the audience, I am happy to say that I haven't been with the Bureau for 50 years, but we are and celebrated this year 50 years. We are one of the oldest and really one of the first convention bureaus in the top 12 in the United States that started tourism. So this year, you'll see our logo, as you see here, with the fleur-de-lis in gold, celebrating our 50th year. So, tourism. You know, I think I have, like I'm sure each of you do, but I am sure that I do. I have the best job in the city. I think I have the best job in the United States because Louisville really understands tourism. So today I'm going to talk, and quickly, so please know I'll be here for questions, a lot that's happened in our community. For the last 4 years, when I'd be in front of groups, and maybe the last time I talked, I'm sure when the convention center was closed, we said we were a city in transformation. Because we had a center that was closed, we had a center under construction, and we had a lot of hotel development, as well as a lot of restaurant, attraction development. Well, today, we're a city reignited. And what does that mean? Okay, reignited means all about that we are. Here you just see a few of our recent accolades. I mean, look at some of these accolades that we can say, and we do say this when we're traveling for conventions or we're trying to get a festival. This is what the world feels about us. As Scott mentioned, I was in Nashville. I didn't go to the Glide this year because I've had several things going on and wanted to be here, but I had 2 of our team go. But in Nashville, the theme was tourism. And you know, I saw a lot of the people there and they were like, gosh, I wish we had that. And I'm like, we do have that. And I was frustrated in telling Scott. So here's some of the accolades that's just recent in the last year. The first thing I'll talk about, and it's great that Luke's right here, is about airlift. These are things I'm going to show you that we have improved and continue to improve in our community, which really makes us a great tourism destination. And I'm sure you've heard from Luke, but our air service has really, really improved over the last year. You know, before we, I admit, when we go after conventions, I just got back from Chicago, when we were bidding we were on the short list with Indianapolis and New Orleans and Atlanta. And one of my questions out of these 12 board members was, Karen, airlift. You know, we have 30,000 people that want to come to a community. Airlift may be one of our weaknesses against this type of group, but now when I can say we have this Louisville Regional Airport Development Committee together that is working on this, it goes a long way. At the end of the day, I always say we are one stop away from the rest of the world. And that's true. You go to Chicago, you catch a plane. You go to Atlanta, you catch a plane. And I'm a salesperson, and that's how I spend it. And we'll continue. Okay, Convention Center. A lot of you, I've talked to you, you wanted to hear about it. It's redesigned, it's remodeled, it's renovated. And a lot of people will say, oh, we renovated, but I am first to say we expanded our Convention Center and we renovated the center. So how many of you were at the opening in the center? If you were, will you raise your hands? Oh, a few of you, not as many as I would have hoped. But I'm going to show you some of the pictures of that opening. So the center was closed for 2 years. And I remember my remarks that day, and I remember when we closed the center, my counterparts, all around were like, how can you close a convention center? Are you going to close your Louisville Tourism? I'm like, no, we're going to be okay. We're going to do some things differently during that 2 years. But while the BIT Center was closing, we were definitely out selling and promoting the building. So the selling points of the new building is the 200,000 square feet of contiguous space, 40,000 square foot ballroom, 52 meeting rooms. That's what we sell. Here you see a picture of our new convention center. It's gorgeous, isn't it? Looks a lot different than that concrete fortress, which I was quoted saying with much of the media over and over again. It looks a lot different. Here you have a picture, and you're thinking, Karen, really, you're going to show pictures of the doors of the center? But again, you see a modern building and glass. But the most important thing of this picture is that now we have one front door, one entrance into our convention center. It used to be you could enter from many different areas, Market, Jefferson, 4th Street, which I will tell you in the world of a meeting planner is not desirable because it's not good for security. So now you have one grand entrance into our convention center. Here you see some pictures of the grand opening day. And I will tell you, it was August 4th. It was a day I couldn't wait to be after 2 years. And we were in the building Tuesday, the week prior to opening. And I've opened 24 hotels in my lifetime. So I know what you can look like a week before. Some of you would say, oh my goodness, we are not going to open. But I knew some of these things and they all came together. So I show you this picture, this is really just in the next few slides, is really to show you the openness of the building. Again, you can see out, and most importantly, you can see in the center. This next slide is us here showing, they thought there would be about 400 or 500 people. We had about 900 people attend, and it was just an exciting day. This building, as you may or may not know, but is owned by the state. The governor several years ago bonded $56 million to pay for the building, and the remainder of that is paid for by Louisville and Jefferson County, the transient room tax. So we have a big responsibility, but that also means we have a big say in how the center moves forward. Here you see the ribbon cutting, and I've cut a lot of ribbons for hotels, but this one we were very excited to do. And if you were there that day, and some of the things, if you haven't seen the building, is that there was a big screen behind us. And so once we cut the ribbon, you know, there was a screen behind us, and it was a screen, and all of a sudden you heard Lincoln Bridge singing My Old Kentucky Home, and a lot of people thought we were just showing a tape. But then the screen came up, and there was Lincoln Bridge. So it was very, very cool. The thing that you're going to see in this ballroom that we didn't have before, and I'm very happy to say that a lot of centers do not have, and this next slide that you have, is the capability and the ability to light this ballroom like no other. Most of the time when you see a ballroom like this with lighting, that means that group spent a lot of money to bring AV in. This is there already. You can go in and you can say, I want the room to be red, blue, orange, whatever, and they have the capability and technology to do that. And that is huge because it'll save you savings when you want to do something special. This next picture, look at this, how they do the lighting. I mean, it was spectacular. The building just opened. It's just been open a little over the month, but they're already, we had, well, the building opened on a Tuesday. We had our first client advisory council come in Wednesday. They left Friday, and then we had a group come in Friday, and then they left on Monday. Then this here you see, and again, I'm so proud of this convention center, and so is our board, and so is the fair board and the directors, but here again, you see openness like you didn't see before. One of the things a lot of you may remember is that building was connected and really kind of blocked off by the skywalks that we had in the community that went over Market and went over Jefferson. And a lot of people walked through the building. It was kind of like their daily walk. Or you may have been going to a U of L game and you parked at the Hyatt and you did the little pedway. And I remember when we closed the center, and then the pedways were taken down, there was some people that were probably like, where am I gonna walk? You know, and the mayor's like, on the street. But I will tell you, it was the right thing to do. Buildings today, convention centers today, and there's a new building opening up every day, are not, they have the capability for you to see in and see out. And as a meeting planner, you want the security. When you reserve a convention center, it is your center. So you don't want people walking in and out. You want to know that it's secure. And so that's what this building creates. And again, you see here the grand staircase in the building. And one of the things that you'll see is not only the light, but they brought in, as Scott said, you know, we're a city of bourbon and we're a state of bourbon. So they brought in some of the natural woods to make you think of a bourbon state. And again, here, more lighting. More lighting. It's just so nice to be in a fresh new center. Again, more seating area here. And then lastly, this is, when you can see this when you're on Jefferson, it's called the Oak and Brew. And Levy's is their catering company on site, and they do a fabulous job. Oak and Brew is a great concept. So it is their coffee shop in the morning or throughout the day, but at night, or if you want to be the group that decides to do it at noon or in the morning, it turns into a bourbon bar. And it's been hugely successful. And what a great segue into bourbon, right? So let's talk about bourbon, bourbonism. You know, I follow the mayor many times as we open hotels or convention centers, and you have heard his phrase. He's coined bourbonism, which is the act of drinking bourbon in a tourism moment, and it's in Webster's dictionary now. But really think about the growth of what bourbon has done. So yes, we're a huge convention city, and we'll talk about the hotels, but we're a leisure destination. We have 9 distillery experiences, 9. And by 19, we'll have 10 because we're opening mixers. And in this building you're in right now, last week, Penny and her team and her board of directors had the wherewithal to say, let's make this the gateway to bourbon country. So she worked closely with KDA. Now you can come here, and if you haven't, please visit their new exhibit, but you can jump on transportation here and go out to the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. So we are really known to be the gateway to bourbon, which was our hope and desire 10 years ago when we were talking about bourbon country. You know, if you haven't been in some of these distilleries, this next one you're gonna see is Rabbit Hole. They all have their own unique experience. This is a very, very cool facility. And it's not just a bourbon experience, it's a venue for you to have a board meeting, for you to have an event. I was there on Monday of this week. This morning I spoke. Kentucky League of Cities is in town, and they're hosting their annual conference. And we hosted a welcome reception for Kentucky League of Cities at O Forester on Monday night. And it was cool. They have the rooftop, you're looking out over the river, but every single bourbon experience has their own unique experience, which is great for that leisure traveler. So we're very blessed to have this one-of-a-kind experience, very authentic, that a lot of cities cannot say they have. As we always say, 95% of the bourbon comes from Kentucky, and the other 5%, as the mayor and I say, is just counterfeit. So, here you go. Where are we? O Forester here. You see O Forester here. This is an inside. So if you haven't, invite friends and family in and take them on. The bourbon distilleries out in the state had the wherewithal to see what was going on in Louisville, and they said, you know what, we need an experience here. Because if you're coming in for a convention or a conference and you only have an hour or two, let's whet their appetite and let them see that and then they'll go out to the Bourbon Trail. And we know that they do that because we have the Urban Bourbon Trail here in Louisville, and we have the Passport program, which means to be part of the Urban Bourbon Trail, you have to have 35 or more bourbons at your restaurant or venue. And you cannot believe the members that we have from all over the world that come and do that Passport program just to get that stamped, to visit as many bourbon distilleries as they can, the Urban Bourbon Experience, to get that t-shirt at the end of the day. And of course, you can't think about bourbon without thinking culinary. And this happens to be one of our brand pillars. When as Scott said, we rebranded, and our agency is BCH, Mandy Carroll Hellich, you know, we spent a lot of time, a lot of effort over a year saying, what is our brand? I think I know, a lot of my staff thinks they know, and we all do, but we wanted to hear what the outside in said. What is your brand? So we spent a lot of time and effort to reach out, and some of them did, to say, when you think of Louisville, what do you think about? And that's another whole talk that I do about branding, but you know, food was one of them. And sure, you can go to different communities and say, oh, they've got good food, and they do. So you'll see a lot of our ads talking about it because we, again, have a lot of authentic food. We have chefs here that chefs in cities like New York, restaurants in New York would love to have some of the chefs. So we have a huge culinary scene. And just, it's recognized by, you probably know, the James Beard Foundation, their Taste of America. They just recently chose 10 dynamic food destinations. How cool that Louisville is mentioned in the middle of that. These are things that a lot of us Louisvillians don't know, but people on the outside, again, James Beard recognizes this. They're going to do a dinner in October, a very prestigious dinner in October with the James Beard Foundation at one of our horse farms. So you'll be hearing more from James Beard Foundation. Then you probably heard about the Top Chef. They were in town in Louisville, so we have to thank our Kentucky Tourism Commissioner. She and I and several of us, when we travel nationally and internationally, you know, we talk to these people and say, choose us, choose Louisville. I'm saying choose Louisville, but they really wanted to look at a destination, a state. And Kentucky is recognized to really have great culinary. So Kentucky was chosen. I'm happy to say that you'll see in the late fall, late November, early December, they're going to have 14 episodes of Top Chef. And if you haven't seen Top Chef, it's a cool show. It's very much fun, but it'll be about Kentucky. And we think we'll end up Louisville in at least maybe 4 to 7 of those episodes. So we're really excited. And this is national media that's looking at this. So we'll make sure during this space, when they're aired, that we'll be doing things with some of the top culinary magazines, and to make sure that while this is on, then we're playing up Louisville during that time. And I look right at Scott when I'm saying that. Okay, so we've talked about a convention center. We've talked about food and bourbon. I mean, who wouldn't like that, right, when you come here? But you've seen a lot of transformation in our hotel growth. So let's talk about our hotels. You know, I speak to a lot of groups, and a lot of times I'll talk to them, or I'll have media. That's a better example. And when we were opening up a hotel, or the mayor and I were cutting a ribbon every day, it seemed like, for a hotel. And they're like, gosh, Karen, we're just growing so many hotels. There's too many, don't you think? And of course, I'm going to say no. But you see it, and so you think that. So our total inventory today in Louisville and Jefferson County, think of all of that, Louisville and Jefferson County, is 20,236. Just in the last 18 months, we've opened over 2,000 hotel rooms, and we currently have 1,268 under construction. So you can do the math and see where we're going to end up. But let me say it this way. So my competitive set, you heard me mention earlier, a lot that I'm up against in conventions. Indianapolis has 32,000 hotel rooms. Nashville has 44,000 hotel rooms. So I would say to you, do you think we have enough? You know, we are catching it. We're really going with the growth, and it's great to have the mayor and Ellen Hesson and Louisville Forward doing everything we can. There isn't a day that goes by that we don't get a call from a hotel developer. What you have seen in Louisville is a lot of growth of hotels. The Omni opened, and we'll go to this next slide. The Omni, which is a gorgeous hotel, really changes the landscape of downtown Louisville. I mean, it's not just a hotel, it's 225 apartments, it's a 12,000 square foot market. It really is a different hotel. But it's 600 rooms. Before the Omni, our hotel that was 500 rooms and more was the Marriott Louisville, which opened in 2008. Prior to that, a 500-room hotel has not opened in Louisville for 25 years. So what you're seeing is a lot of growth of extended stay, which I think it's wonderful. A lot of boutique hotels, which I think is wonderful because our clients and our visitors want those options. But you're not seeing the growth at some of these other communities because we're not building those size hotels. So maybe next year when I come back, we'll be talking about another large hotel. Downtown, you'll just see some of the development, the new Moxie Distill, which is Steve Ho's property. Those properties will open in 2020. You just had the AC Marriott open and the Home 2 Suites. So we have had a lot of growth just downtown and also out in our suburbs, out in the East End. We've had about, when I showed you those 2,000 rooms, I would say probably 1,000 of those have opened out in our East End area. And then, as I say, rising tide lifts all ships, and it definitely does, and I couldn't be more proud and happy of our hotels, because some of our signature hotels that have really been here for us all these years, like the Hyatt Regency, went just over 2 years ago to really spent over $20 million, and they changed their front door, you know, their 4th Street entrance, and spent a lot of money in their lobby and in their rooms. And then you have the Louisville Marriott, which opened in 2008. 2008, brand new hotel, but they have recently, they're almost, actually I got an email before I was looking at it, they're gonna have their grand reopening of all their